I remember a proud time when Washington won a Super Bowl. Remember the Giants, Super Bowl champions. The Eagles won a Super Bowl not that long ago in Dallas. Proud team with a Super Bowl tradition. None of that right now. Last night, the Eagles managed a win against the Giants where it was a battle between two pretty bad teams. And there's a lot of debate to be had over which ones are in worst shape of the four and which ones have the better future. And so I want to take a look at it because one of these teams is going to make the playoffs. And right now you've got the Eagles at 2-4-1, the Cowboys at 2-4, Washington's at 1-5, and the New York Giants are at 1-6. You'll notice I just have a W there for Washington because sure. Um, they haven't got a new logo, just the letter W. So I'll just write a W. The Eagles, their results, they had a tie versus the Bengals. They beat San Francisco and they beat the New York Giants. Now, what's unusual about Philadelphia's record is they actually got a win outside their division. One of two games that this division has won against other divisions. Two. So maybe the Eagles have a better chance. And their upcoming schedule is going to tell us where they're at. So they're at home against Dallas. Then they go to New York and they play the Giants. Then they're going to be tested from there. So they get a chance to potentially win two in a row. The Cowboys still without Dak Prescott, which is going to hurt them going forward. But if they can beat Dallas and the New York Giants, they go to 4-4-1, which is at least better than 2-4-1. But then they're at Cleveland. Cleveland looks better than last year. Then they're at home against Seattle. They go to Green Bay, and at home they're against New Orleans. The way they're playing, at best, I would see them probably winning maybe one out of those three. So that'd be 1-2. That'd be 3-5-1 outside of everything else that goes on. And of course, they beat Dallas and New York Jets or New York Giants. It's going to be tough, right? Then they go to Arizona. Then they're at Dallas, and then they're home against Washington. So what's the most games we could see them potentially winning? I could see them winning 4. I could see them winning 4 of their remaining games, which would put them at 6-9-1. Now maybe 5, maybe they get to 7-8-1, but I don't see a path to them getting a 500 record. Not with the way things have been going. Now, Dallas is 2-4. Their wins, they have the other win against a team that's outside of their division over the Falcons. They also defeated the New York Giants. So these guys can beat each other, and the Giants don't have a great record in their own division, but their win was in their own division anyways. So for Dallas, they're going to Washington, then they're at Philadelphia. So again, Philadelphia and Dallas are going to have a chance to improve their lot or hurt themselves when they play each other twice before the end of the season. And those games could go a long way to deciding who actually wins the division. Then they're at home against Pittsburgh. Then they're at Minnesota. They're at home against Washington. Over this period, if things go right for Dallas, they could win, I would say, 4 out of 5. They could get to a 6-5 record before they go to Baltimore. Then they're at Cincinnati. I'll say they can beat Cincinnati. Then they're at home against San Francisco, Philadelphia, and then they're in New York against the Giants. Of the teams on this board, I think Dallas has potentially the easiest path to at least a 500 record and probably winning the division. But it's going to come down to how the team continues to handle the loss of Prescott and really being able to pull this together. And so far, we haven't seen it yet, but Dallas has shown in recent history they can string some wins together here and there. Now, it gets a little dicier once you get past Philadelphia and Dallas. I think those are your most likely winners. For Washington to get there, their only win was against Philadelphia. They're at home against Dallas. They're at home against the New York Giants. If they can win both of those games at home and go with 3-5, they're hurting divisional opponents. They improve their standing there. Then they go to Detroit. That's a winnable game. That is a winnable game. Then they're at home against Cincinnati. Also a winnable game. Then they go to Dallas. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Their next 5 games. If they could run the table on that, suddenly Washington gets back into the conversation. But if you're a Washington fan and you're laughing at the idea of running the table, I totally get it. Just saying that when you look at the strength of opponents they have here, it's not a daunting task for Washington to maybe win 4 out of 5, maybe 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5, 3-2 gets you to 4-7. You're still likely on the wrong side of the playoff picture, but in this division, 4-7 doesn't mean you're necessarily out of it either. But then they go to Pittsburgh, then they're in San Francisco before they're at home against Seattle, at home against Carolina, and at Philadelphia. I can't see them finishing 500. I can't see them ending up ahead of either Dallas or Philadelphia. I just can't see it. The Giants, this season's another unmitigated disaster. Last night's just a microcosm of that. Their only win was against Washington. It was a 20-19 win. And again, it felt like, well, there's a team the Giants are better than, other than the Jets. The Jets are definitely a team that if they played these guys, any of these guys on the board, likely the Jets would find a way to salvage a loss from a victory. The upcoming schedule for the Giants, they have Tampa Bay at home. That's going to be tough. Tampa Bay looks pretty good. Then they're in Washington. They're at home against Philadelphia. So those back-to-back divisional games that will be key in deciding who gets where. But after the game against Tampa, I'm guessing they're 1-7 against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Then they go to Cincinnati after Philadelphia. And then they're in Seattle. That's almost unwinnable in my eyes. Then they're at home against Arizona, at home against Cleveland, at Baltimore, and at home against Dallas. We may be looking at a New York Giants team that ends up 3-13. That's, I think, likely. The division's record as a whole, 6 wins, 19 losses, and 1 tie. 4 of those 6 wins are against one another. So that's not a great look either. And again, they beat the Falcons, they beat the 49ers, and tied the Bengals. That's as a division. I don't know if this is the worst division in football history. And I'm debating that. You know, I've been thinking about this really since last season. Last season was kind of a disaster for this division as well. And so it's a question I'm going to pose to the internet universe. Is this division, which is made up of 4 teams that combine for this record, is this the worst division in football ever? Is there a division that would rival that? And there is, you know, the potential that I will go through football yearbooks, annuals, and history books and find the worst divisional records in history, this kind of thing. Because I do that a lot on the Hockey Channel, and I could definitely do that here as well. And I've been thinking about doing a misery index for football as well. So for people who follow the Hockey Channel, there is room there for me to do a misery index for both baseball, for football, and that's to measure misery as an organization, as a fan base, as all of these things, and doing it over a period of, say, a decade, that kind of thing. And I could do that for probably basketball as well. So I'm thinking about various misery indexes, and we'll see how that goes. But there you go. Of the 6 wins, 4 of them are against each other. And at the very least, they will pick up some wins because they do still play against each other a lot from here. So how bad is it, and which team emerges victorious? I'm leaning towards Dallas. Even without Prescott, I still think they'll find a way to cobble together enough victories. But the Eagles at 2-4-1, that tie, maybe that ends up being the difference. Maybe they have 1 less loss than Dallas at the end of the year. Maybe they end up 8-7-1. Dallas ends up 8-8 at best. And there you go. I'm hoping a team comes out of this with a plus 500 record and wins the division and doesn't have a miserable record. But how do you think it's going to turn out? What record wins this division? And go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thanks for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.